Hey guys, welcome to Total Health Live with Dr. Sedano. I'm Dr. Nick Sedano, and I am so thrilled that you're joining us today. And guys, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in practice 26 years, and we run a total health facility out of Georgia. And really, our purpose is to be the voice of truth when it comes to healthcare. We know that so many people are starving for information. You're sick and suffering. Many of you praying and crying out to God for help. And hopefully we can be that for you. And really, there's so much misinformation out there, so our purpose is to try to make the information more simple, to take the more complex health issues and break it down and keep it simple for you, so that way really you can make the best healthcare decisions as to what's right for you. So that's really what it's about, and that's why we're here today. So once again, I'm thrilled that you're here. If you guys are checking in, let me know where you're from. If I can keep an eye on my computer and see where you're coming from, I'll be glad to give you a shout out, say hello, and let you know how much I appreciate you being here with us. And if you saw the last show was once again the best strategies to prevent and reverse cancer. We talked about the fact that the best thing you could do to really cure cancer is to never get it. And we talked about that my mom had cancer, and it was probably one of the biggest, most difficult things and struggles and challenges I've ever had to deal with in my life. And that if I had the information then that I do now, I guarantee you my mom would still be alive today. But I did lose my mom at about 11 months of her treatment. And she went the whole conventional route. She did the chemo and the radiation, and she followed all the doctor's recommendations. But honestly, the chemo killed her worse than anything else. It was the worst thing to watch someone go through. And if you've gone through that and you see what I'm talking about, and you have a loved one, or maybe yourself has gone through cancer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's one of the most horrific things that you could ever see someone go through, and nobody should ever have to do that. So hopefully we're going to give you some critical life-saving information so that way you guys can make the best decisions for yourself or your family, or pass this information on. So if you like what we're talking about, hit the like button, give us a thumbs up on that, give us the little heart shape, whatever you prefer, and share this. There's people all over the country that need the information that we're going to be talking about today, so please share it out to people. You know, we always say that if you know information that can save, change, or transform someone's life, please share it with them. That's really what it's about. There may be someone in another part of the country, way far away from where I am now, that can get some help and benefit from it, or maybe even another country. And once again, too, if you like what we're talking about, hit the follow button so that way you're notified of future times when we go on the air. And certainly, we want this to be a group effort. So please, we want you to co-create the show with us. If there's other health topics that you know of that are struggles for you, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to do shows like that in the future. And so we're always going to be taking the questions. And you could always email my office at live@drsedano.com. So let us know what we can do to help you. So once again, what we were talking about the other day is that many people feel that cancer is a genetic thing, that you've just got the genes for it, so why bother? Why do anything differently? That everyone in your family dies of cancer, so why take care of yourself? Why eat right? Why do things necessary to prevent it? Because it's almost, unfortunately, many of us take it like a death sentence. That we've been told by a doctor that this is the way it's going to be. You've got 6 months to live. You've got 2 months to live, whatever it is. And I'm here to tell you that doctors don't know everything. They can't play God. And so we're going to give you information that you can use that'll extend your life, transform your life, and hopefully save your life also. But once again, we talked about it the other day, and we're going to do a recap just for a few minutes in the beginning, that your DNA is not your destiny. The new science of epigenetics proves that it's your choices you make. It's the things you do, the foods you eat, the environments you're exposed to, that it's more of an environmental factor. And as in our last seminar we did, we talked about the environment of the body, that the choices you make, the foods you eat, the things that you do can actually change your genes. So there's something above the gene called the epigenome, and that can actually influence how your genes are expressed. So for example, you might have the genes for cancer, as people in my family do, or the genes for heart disease, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it, because you can do the things to turn those genes off, just like you can conversely do the things that turn them on. And I like to say the genes are really like the gun. They're the gun when it comes to cancer, but you can determine if you want to pull that trigger or not. Your lifestyle choices are the trigger. I always tell my patients, your lifestyle choices trigger whether you turn genes on or off. So we talked about environment, and we talked about the fact that if our cells are in a certain environment, they're going to become toxic. They're going to become damaged. You know, the environment of the body is critical when it comes to cancer cell formation. Cancers like to be in a certain environment. They like a very acidic environment. They like a very sugar-filled environment. They literally thrive on sugar. We talked about last time that they have 10 to 70 times more receptor sites for sugar than an average cell does. So you have to create an environment for cancer. And just like I always tell my patients, if you have, for example, an environment that's dark, moist, and warm, what are you going to grow there? And many of you, if you type it in there, you might say that you can find mold. Mold is going to be in that type of environment. It doesn't grow where it's hot and dry and arid and sunny. It typically grows where it's dark, moist, and warm. That's where mold grows. Just like you don't find polar bears in the desert. You know, that's not where they grow. That's not where they thrive and flourish. So if we change the environment, like we see here in this fish tank, if the fish tank is totally polluted like this, you can just about guarantee that you're going to have cells within the fish that are going to start to die. Is it the fish's fault or its environment that it's growing in? And once again, we're not talking about the environment meaning, you know, what kind of air you breathe or pollutants in the air. That's another topic, but even our internal environment is what we're talking about. So we said first thing you want to do of the 4 things are, number 1, avoid toxins. So toxins such as bad fats, you know, butter, things like synthetic foods like that. It's really not butter. I can't believe it's not butter because it's not butter. It's nothing like butter. It's a fat that's been hydrogenated, or an oil that's been hydrogenated, and a lot of these other, you know, vegetable oils we said are toxic too, so avoid those. We talked about bad meats, commercially raised meats, where the meat is given steroids and hormones and all kinds of other chemicals to keep and fend off the infections that these cows get while they're mass produced. They're given grain to eat, which cows are not designed to do. Cows are designed to eat grass. When they eat grass, their omega-3 ratio is high. Their omega-6 ratio is low. It should be in a range of about 1:1 or 1:4 highest. But in commercially raised meats, it could be as high as 20:1 or 30:1. And it has much too much omega-6 fats, which are extremely inflammatory. Omega-3 fats are anti-inflammatory, so you want more omega-3s. So bad meats, you want to eat more grass-fed meats. We talked about processed refined carbohydrates and how bad they are. They are basically almost anti-nutrients. There's no nutrient value in them at all, and many times you're filling up on these calories and they're just empty calories. So we talked about avoiding that, and of course the obvious ones like your cleaning products, smoking, and even medications. We talked about last time that medications are a poison to your body depending on the relative dosage, and that if you eat too much drugs, it can kill you. And we see that with a lot of celebrities and a lot of people that overdose on drugs. Drugs are a poison to the body. Just because they're prescribed by someone in a white coat does not mean they're safe. And we know that because we see all the side effects. We said what you need to do is alkalize your body. Get your body to where the pH is higher, between 7.3 and 7.4. And to do that, the best thing to do is eat a lot of leafy green vegetables, especially the dark green vegetables with the highest Andy score. And we said that Andy score is the aggregate nutrient density index. That means how nutrient dense a food is per calorie. So the highest Andy score foods rank 1,000, and you have things like kale, bok choy, cabbage, things like that. Those are all the highest ones. And we talked about eliminating sugars. Sugars create an incredibly acidic environment to the body, and this is what cancer cells feed on. You know, I hate to say, but being an Italian, I love my cannolis, but I have to restrict them sometimes. But you want to watch out for the cookies and the frosted mini wheats and the shredded wheat and the crackers and the pasta and the bagels. And once again, I grew up in New York, so I know all about bagels. They're incredible, but you've got to reduce them and keep them down. The other thing, too, is your healthy whole grains. Well, we talked about the fact that the healthy whole grains actually spike your blood sugar faster and higher and longer than anything else, even more than a teaspoon of sugar. So you want to eliminate sugars or reduce them, because by doing that, you're feeding cancer cells. So if you have too high a sugar, cancer cells are thriving. We also mentioned that by reducing the sugars, cancer cells need glucose to thrive. thereby lowering glucose levels in your body through carb and protein restriction, because proteins can be converted to carbohydrates also. This literally starves the cancer cells into oblivion. And this is by Dr. Thomas Seyfried, and he's a neuroscientist in neurochemistry at Yale University and Boston College. So this guy's one of the foremost leading authorities on the planet when it comes to the ketogenic diet and how he starves his patients of the cancer cells by using the ketogenic diet. So eliminating all but non-starchy vegetables, carbohydrates, and replacing them with healthy fats, high-quality protein will actually starve cancer cells, because cancer cells need sugars. They thrive on fermentation. So when you take in a lot of healthy fats, the healthy fats are converted in your liver to ketones, and the ketones the cancer cells cannot use, but we can. Our brains can work off of it, so you'll be fine with that. So the ketogenic diet is primarily fat. It's about 65 to 70% fat. It's about 15 to 25% protein, and it's about 5% carbohydrates. So by eating this type of foods, and the fats we're talking about, quality fats like avocados, things like olive oils, salmon is terrific because it's got very high omega-3 fats, and it's also got an incredible antioxidant called astaxanthin. The blueberries are fantastic because they're low in sugars. So higher fats, minimal proteins and carbs, and you will start to starve cancer. So getting into what we're talking about today. And today's topic is more in the line of what we can also consume that kills cancer cells. And this is a very, very important topic we call angiogenesis. If you guys have heard of angiogenesis, type yes into the bar there. And once again, if you guys are just coming on now, give us a like or a shout out or a share. Let us know where you are so we can say hi to you. And if you like what we're talking about, share it out and follow us, please, because there's so many people out there that you know of that need this kind of information. And hopefully we're just giving you tons and tons of good content, good quality, so that you could share it with your friends and save some lives. There's so many people out there that do not know and are starving for information, so please share it out to them. So with angiogenesis, one of the pioneers in this is Dr. William Lee, and he actually has his organization is called the Angiogenesis Foundation, and Dr. Lee is one of the pioneers in this type of work. And so his work started looking at, well, being a medical doctor, they were looking at the type of drugs that they were using to help cancer patients, and he started thinking to himself, is there something else that we can do, maybe more holistically, preventatively, so that way we don't have to try to give patients these harmful medications with many side effects. And a lot of times the medications are just going to extend the patient's life 2, 3, 4 months, maybe 6 months, and yet cost tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is there something that we can do preventative early on to never get cancer? And once again, that's what we're talking about. Never getting cancer is the key. You don't want to have to try to cure cancer. You want to prevent it. So taking a proactive approach will do this. So angiogenesis is this. Angio means vessels, genesis means new. It's the formation of new blood vessels. Now, normally in the body, angiogenesis occurs in both directions. You have things that stimulate angiogenesis, and you can have inhibitory factors that reduce it. So there are times when you need new capillaries in your body. You have an injury, your body needs to heal that area. It increases capillaries. You have other parts of your body that your body's innate wisdom is trying to help and heal. It sends new capillary beds there. So your body is either making new capillaries, and then there's times when it prunes it away. It starts to reduce it because you don't want to have too much capillary beds in certain areas. So angiogenesis is this delicate balance between making new capillary beds and reducing capillary beds when we need it. Well, why is this so important then when it comes to cancer? Very simply, because cancer cells are very, very fast, rapidly growing cells. They have high energy. They require capillary beds. So as we see here, so you have a small tumor. In order for a tumor to start to grow and develop, it needs blood supply, it needs nutrients, it needs food. And what it does is it actually secretes angiogenic factors into the area. When it secretes angiogenic factors, these chemicals that can increase blood supply, it then forms a little bit of a bud on the arterial wall. That bud can then grow, and now it's supplying the tumor cell with the blood it needs. So Now the tumor cell is able to grow and grow and grow, and then it's able to metastasize. So once again, how cancer becomes dangerous is that normally we might have cancer cells, and all of us do, in our bodies every single day. I've got them right now, you've got them. And so what happens is your body's immune system regulates it, goes after it, kills it like special ops forces, so it's always trying to kill the cancer cells. And typically, if there's not enough blood supply to the cancer cells in an area, there's not a big enough capillary bed, they're not going to grow. They don't do anything. They don't take over. They just basically just sit there, or the body attacks it. But what happens is, once it starts to send out these angiogenic factors, it starts to get, like I said, its blood supply. Once it starts to get a bigger and bigger blood supply, the cancer cells grow and grow and grow into a much larger tumor. Now that it's got an adequate blood supply, a lot of the cells are able to then leave and go into the bloodstream and metastasize in other places. This is one of the dangerous things that happens, and I always recommend to my patients, don't get biopsies done. You know, and I know people are going to question me about that, but a lot of times what the body has done is already walled off the tumor. It's already kind of encapsulated it. When you go into it and you puncture with a needle, now you're allowing the cells to move out. I had this discussion with a friend of mine recently. He was telling me that he had throat cancer, and then they saw it in some lymph nodes. So the doctors went in and said, well, your lymph nodes are swollen. Let's go ahead and check those. Let's biopsy it. And they thought maybe it was first a cyst, not connecting the throat cancer to the lymph nodes. What ended up happening was when they went in with one needle, they said, oh, this is a little firmer than we thought. They went in with a bigger needle and then a bigger needle, and they finally got through it and realized it wasn't a cyst at all, that it was actually a tumor. And so now the problem is you've just released the cells. So the body did a great job encapsulating it. Now the doctors release the cells to all parts of the body. So now it's a big, big problem. So here, once they've got a blood supply that's adequate, they will then send the cells to other parts of the body. So what we need to do is reverse this process. Do things that can actually kill off the blood cells. Now, it turns out one of the fortunate things is because these capillary beds are created so quickly, they're very weak, they're not very strong, and they're not very well organized. So that makes the body's ability, or our ability to then go after them, much, much better. So what doctors have done is they've actually started to create, drugs and medications to try to stop this process, stop angiogenesis, which can work because these cells are very flimsy, they're weak, they can be destroyed easily. So what we want to do, once again, is work this process backwards. We want to take the capillary beds that are already in place and start to reduce them. So what doctors have done is they've created a scale, and they look at things that can actually increase angiogenesis and decrease angiogenesis. And just a reminder, for those of you who are tuning in a little bit late, angiogenesis is a process by which our body creates new blood cells for cancer cells. So we want to stop this process from happening. So what we see here is some of the typical cancer drugs, some of them very good at stopping angiogenesis, and then some of them not so good, but this is the scale of what typical cancer drugs, angiogenic cancer drugs, will do. Then we have some of the common drugs. Common drugs can do the same thing, but once again, these are coming with side effects, and not to mention the extremely high cost of these. I mean, when you have a drug that's for cancer purposes, you've got a very captive audience for that, and these drugs tend to cost a lot. Once again, like I said, they can be in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So these drugs actually can stop angiogenesis, but at what cost? So what Dr. Lee was looking at, he said, you know what can we do? Are there any things that we can eat that can prevent this? Because why are we trying to cure cancer once we have it with these very powerful, potent, and expensive drugs? What if we can do something to actually prevent it by eating things on a daily basis that will prevent the cancerous growth by inhibiting angiogenesis? And what they found was this, that there's a lot of foods that we eat on a daily basis, that you eat on a daily basis, that can stop this angiogenic process from happening. So things like soy extract, artichoke, parsley, berries, garlic. And if you notice the colors here, they do as good or sometimes even a better job, Dr. Lee showed, than the drugs, than the very expensive drugs. And these are things you can get in your market. These are things that you can get at your local health food store or your Whole Foods in your area. So these are things that you can get right in your own store that have the same, if not better benefit than very, very expensive drugs. So if you guys are happy about that, type yes into the button. Just say yes and give a big shout out for these types of foods. Cruciferous vegetables, we talked about that last time. We said cruciferous vegetables are your anti-cancer vegetables. Those are things like your cauliflower, your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, your collard greens. Those cruciferous vegetables are extremely powerful. Citrus fruits, lavender, green tea, turmeric. I mean, we hear about turmeric all the time now. It is one of the wonder herbs when it comes to cancer prevention. All kinds of vitamins, vitamin E, for example. So these are things that you have at home that can inhibit angiogenic growth, and that's what we're looking for. Like I said, angiogenesis works in both ways. There are times when we need angiogenesis and times that we don't. So let's look at some of the top angiogenic foods. Green tea, strawberries, blackberries. And by the way, if anybody wants the list, you can call our office, or not call our office, email us at live@drsudano.com. That's live@drsudano.com, and we'll get you all this information. So blueberries, oranges, grapefruits, apples, cherries, bok choy, kale, ginseng, licorice, turmeric, nutmeg, artichokes, parsley, garlic, tomato. In fact, there's such a powerful ingredient in tomatoes, cooked tomatoes, called lycopene, that when researchers gave this to men for a 20-year period, just a couple of servings of cooked tomatoes each week, they lowered their percentage or chances of getting prostate cancer by 40 to 50% just by eating tomatoes. You start to combine these foods together in a meal, in some kind of tasty dish at home, and you can really start to block angiogenic growth and therefore block cancer cell growth. So olive oil, grapeseed oil. Mediterranean diet uses a lot of these foods. That's one of the reasons why they have one of the lower cancer rates in the world. In the Orient, they eat a lot of things with green tea in it and white tea, high in polyphenols and fantastic at reducing cancer cell growth. So, there's one more application I wanted to mention about this because there are other kinds of cells that need angiogenic properties. Fat cells. Fat cells really need a lot of blood supply to it. So there's a lot of research now, and this is, on another subject, a lot of research now on obesity in patients that if they eat angiogenic foods, which, by the way, these are all your fruits and vegetables we should be eating, they can actually reduce angiogenic growth to fat cells. So if you can reduce capillaries to fat cells, doesn't it make sense we could also reduce the fat cells? So this has applications far and wide from just your normal application of trying to prevent cancer. This is also extremely powerful in preventing obesity. So people who ate high anti-angiogenic foods reduced in obesity. So guys, I hope this was great information for you. Once again, I'm Dr. Nick Sedano, speaking the voice of truth. I love and appreciate you guys. If you like what we're doing, go ahead and hit the thumbs up or heart. Share it to people, please. There's so many people out there that need to know this information. There's so many people that maybe are across the seas to another country, somewhere else in the world, that do not know really what they can do to prevent cancer. Watch out for our next part in this. We're going to continue this series on cancer prevention, how to reverse and prevent cancer, but also to give us a shout out, give us a thumbs up, follow us. Just go ahead and hit the little follow button. I think it's in the bottom right-hand corner, and that way you guys can get notifications of when we're on the air. And if you like what we're talking about, and you want to hear more of it, just let us know what you want us to hear, because there's a lot of times that you guys might have a health struggle or a health topic you want us to know about. Please let us know. We want this to be a group effort. I want to be able to provide the information you're looking for. So I want you to co-create the show with me, so it's up to you. Help me out and give us some feedback so we know really where you want our health topics to go on. But once again, thank you guys. I love and appreciate you. Have a great weekend. And we're going to have another talk coming up this week, continuing on a series of cancer prevention, how to reverse and prevent cancer naturally. So tell your friends, and I hope you can join us. Have a blessed day. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye, guys.